And we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Today, we're taking the Qidi Tech, what's it called? Q1 Pro, and we're going to strip it down as much as possible. We've done a few of these now. Sorry, when I do this, it's not because I have like a twitch. It's just the cable gets stuck. The microphone cable, and I do this to try and pull it. It just looks a bit funny. Yes, we're going to be tearing it down. Qidi have provided me this printer for free, and I said I would do a review. So I have a review. That's not this. There's a separate video for that. I've also done like a little short on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, which you can go watch, which is all fun and games, basically unboxing and that kind of process. And there's a written version of the review on my website, vector3d.co.uk. And of course, as normal, you can visit vector3d.shop, which is the shop. Hopefully that makes some sense. There's a lot of things, but these are the things. So good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Hopefully good on this wonderful sunny day. Well, it's a sunny day here. Probably isn't everywhere. Chances are pretty slim. In fact, somewhere, half the world is nighttime. So it's definitely not a sunny day there. Anyway, my point is, we're going to be tearing this printer apart, and you get to watch. Yay! 1066 says, afternoon, these are always fun. I think so too. I really like destroying things. No, not destroying. Tearing down. I will not destroy it. I want to use this printer afterwards. If you've not seen my review, it's a little bit up and down. There's some stuff which I think is pretty annoying and not very good, but there are other things which are pretty useful, like 60 degrees heated chamber. As long as you enable it in the filament profile to actually heat the chamber, it works pretty well. And it's obviously fully enclosed and that kind of stuff. So thanks for calling out the non-clipper version in the review video. Non-clipper version. It is a clipper printer. It's only clipper. It's an old clipper version. Is that what you meant? It's like 2 years and 5 months or 2 years and 6 months now compared to when I first had it. Hello, Knights. I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Hope you're good too. Oh, the non-vanilla. Yes. Yes. Vanilla clipper is best clipper. Please do the normal clipper and not the dodgy, weird, modified, can't update it clipper. It's no good to anyone, really. So this is the spool holder. I mentioned it in the review. It's very, very wobbly. It's not so bad if it's on a rigid surface. But if your table is a little bit wobbly, there's not much of a lip here, and a heavy spool, I mean, even a 1 kilo spool will jump up and down on this a little bit. So just be wary of that. You may want to make a more rigid something or something bolts on the side. I don't know. But this particular one, it's okay. It could probably be better. But, you know, it is what it is. It comes with the printer. I'm going to take it out of the way so I don't bang my head on it because it's sticked out. So yes, the plan is to tear this down as much as possible. There's a lot of plastic outer shell on this printer. You can see from where you are that it's a pretty massive printer, but the build volume is only 245 in each direction, and you can't even use the full volume because of some area for purging. The maximum I managed to do in the slicer was 232. So considering it's like this wide and the print volume is smaller than a bamboo, it's quite massive for what it is, but you'll see why on the inside. You'll kind of see why on the inside. You'll at least see why it's so massive and that there's loads of space on the inside. I don't think there's much other preamble. There's a couple of mods that I've installed on here. Those are available on printables. They're not in the description here because I just realized I forgot to put them in. But on the review video, they're there. Hopefully that'll be nearby in a link or on the channel. Qidi Tech Q1 Pro review. Hopefully that will find the video that I made. It might not. I'm not very good at SEO, but never mind. Yeah, obviously I've had this for a few weeks. Sorry, lots of preamble. I've had this for a few weeks and I have been using it. So that's obviously how I've done the review and stuff. So I'm fairly familiar with the printer. I have done some teardown of it already. Just to like check the electronics and things like that for doing the review and testing and all this kinds of stuff. but I've not like properly stripped it down. So the first few steps, like taking the back panel off, I've done before, but when we get to side panels and dismantling the frame, that's going to be an entirely new area. Hopefully we don't mess it up. I don't know if we'll manage to get it all assembled back to where it is now by the end of today. That's sort of my plan, because I obviously do the Darwin Evo, this printer, live stream tomorrow. So I need to have it all back together before then. This is the USB thing. I made a mod to hold USB stuff in the top. Right. First things first, I suppose that can come off. That's just the lid. It scratches quite easily because it's pretty soft plastic. So try not to put stuff on the top, which I have, because when the printer shuffles around, it scratches the top. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It's just a bit scratched. One thing I didn't mention in my review because it didn't seem relevant is this tiny little bit here is 3D printed. I figured it doesn't really matter. This is the wrong screwdriver. The funny thing is, I've taken this printer apart actually quite a few times now. This back panel specifically, because to do the review, after I've been using the printer and I've already disassembled it to do modifications, I then take it apart to put everything back to original so I can film it as it was originally. And then I have to reassemble it so it all looks normal. And then I have to install the mods during the video, so I have to take it apart again and then reinstall it. It's a bit of a weird selection of everything, this printer, and I'll try and point out some of those things as we go. The bits are that it's just a little bit weird and a little bit odd and strange decisions, and looks like things were like, I don't know, decided once and then changed their mind and put something else. This printer is quite similar, I believe, to the printers which they already have. So I think that's like the X Max 3 and something like that. Qidi X Max and X Pro, I can't remember their names. This is the first Qidi printer I've had, so I've not really been following all of their stuff very much. Oh. This panel can be a little bit difficult to get back on. The holes don't necessarily align super well with the ones on the inside. So getting everything back together again afterwards can be a bit of a fiddle. But I've done it a few times now, so hopefully not a problem. The main thing to remember is that these 3 screws here, 1, 2, 3, these are the self-tapping ones. All the others are machine thread. Again, why are they different? I really don't know. In fact, I've put all those in 3 separate boxes. Let's just put them all in one tray. 1 more, 2 more. I have just realized before the stream as well that some of the places I shared the thumbnail, my post has been flagged because the thumbnail contains the word beats, as in the Qidi Tech Pro beats the P1S, as in is better than. But obviously the word beats could be considered, I don't know what, like not offensive, violent? I don't know, it's ridiculous. It's a flipping 3D printer. But anyway, I thought that was kind of amusing. Hopefully this back panel. Yes, so as we take the back panel off, you'll notice here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. Although they only took off 1, 2, 3. So they've just decided, oh, we don't need that many, so let's just not put that many holes in. That'll save us some time. It's a little bit weird. It's the same down this side. They've even put the heatset inserts into here, because this is huge injection molded panels. but they've just not put the holes in, so they don't use them. And then this is my favorite part of the printer, the bit where it doesn't come with Ethernet. So I just bought an adapter and plugged it in, and the hole that was on the back, this is not original sticker. You'll have to watch my review to see what quite is going on here. But yes, Ethernet you can add, you just need an adapter. I don't know if all adapters work. Sometimes USB adapters for Ethernet can be a little bit weird. This one is from Ugreen. I think it's a gigabit adapter, although I don't think we're going to be getting full speed, but that's not really the point. The point is we get nice Ethernet connection using this weird little panel mount, and the holes are already in the panel. You just have to dig out the sticker that's in front of them. A little bit weird, but it is what it is. Also, there's this hole here. This does absolutely nothing. It's just there. This one's for the power. This one's for the power. This one's for the power supply, and this one is sort of by this hole here, which is a ventilation into the printer, but they didn't install a fan here, so kind of doesn't do a thing either. This one is sort of for this fan. You can't really see very well on that angle. This fan here, so the stepper drivers are here, which obviously want cooling. So this fan blows air up here, and that's how it does the cooling, and that's what that ventilation fold is for. It would be great to have a little ducted part around this fan that goes around this area just to get the freshest air possible. If you can be bothered with that, you can do it, but it's kind of very much not essential. Can we request some detailed captures of PCB, specifically TFT? I will do my best. Remind me as we go, and remember that there is a delay. There's only a small delay, should be quite small. But I'll try and capture all the PCBs and stuff as we go. That is the plan generally. So, as I pointed out in the review, we've got a maker base control board. So this has the single board computer for, well, like running the typically Raspberry Pi part, the clipper part of the 3D printer. So that's embedded in there, and then you have the main control board with the stepper drivers and that lot. You've got your USB ports down the bottom. One of them goes up to this USB port at the top, so it's just a pass-through. One of them is the USB camera, so the camera that's installed at the front is just connected via USB. That goes in there, and then that's the other one that I've just unplugged. Normally either Wi-Fi or, in my case, USB Ethernet. But when you have... The USB Ethernet doesn't work in all of the ports. Some of these are USB 2 and some are USB 3. So I created this modified part, which you can get on printables, which allows a cable to go down the back of the fan, which the original bracket, which looks like this, doesn't allow. There's just not space. So this spaces the fan off, allows you to put a cable down the back, so you can use all three USB ports with wires and or Ethernet or USB adapters. Yes. Just make sure you test, if you're going to use Ethernet, which ports work for you before you put all the panel back on. It's pretty easy. You just plug it in and it'll kind of work straight away. What I found is, though, that you can't do Wi-Fi and Ethernet at the same time, and that's why... Am I talking too fast? I feel like I'm blabbering. That's why I've added this thing on the top. So as I said, this USB port is pass-through, so it's just a plain cable, no logic or anything, just between the control board and here. So this little thing holds your USB WhatsApp adapter, so if you unplug the Ethernet, plug this in, then you'll then get Wi-Fi to a different IP address. Wi-Fi will always use a different IP address to the wired connection, so bear that in mind. But there, that will plug in the top. And now you then use the Wi-Fi. You don't have to reconfigure anything in firmware or anything. You just unplug Ethernet and plug in the Wi-Fi and you're good to go. You might need to unplug the adapter rather than just the Ethernet cable though. I've not actually tried that, or I tried it and I've forgotten. It's one of those two. But yes, these are just 3D prints. They use all the original connections, all the original fasteners, the screws. So you don't need any additional screws. You can just print the parts out and install them if you fancy. We've done quite a lot of blabbering on that already. I'm just going to go, I think, straight away for the panels. Let's get the big stuff out of the way and get straight to the core. Don't know which order they come off in, so we'll just make a guess and go for it. Oop, there's one. Can't get my screw in there. There. So despite this printer's like really plasticky appearance, it does have what seems like a pretty rigid steel frame, which is one of the reasons why I'm quite interested to fully take it apart to get a good look at what that frame really looks like. We might... Oh. Yeah, that screw looks a bit mangled. I'm going to use not a ball head screwdriver. One thing that I think could be interesting and worth considering on this printer is because the panels stand off from the side, the steel part so far, and it's generally a rather bulky printer. What you might be able to do is install some insulation between the two. Obviously, you probably want something that's not flammable in any way, but it could be interesting. I don't know, again, like chamber temperatures, how that's going to affect everything else. You can't just change one thing and hope everything else just works. But it could be interesting if you want to experiment, if that's your kind of thing. It might be fun to do. These screws are acting very weird. They're all kind of grindy. I mean, I think they're screwed directly into the sheet metal, which is steel. So that's kind of lipped into the top. That's on the thing. I'm gonna have to turn this up. Oh, didn't mean to drop it. I want the screw to pull out. There's another one. It's just this top one, maybe it's not out fully. Oh, I think it'll go. I think we might have to do the top. There's a couple of screws here for the top. What I really should do, put these in like an order. I think I want it here. Again, there's obviously no manual here, so I am literally guessing, and I have to remember things as I go. There's a screw on the inside up here, which you can't see from that angle. It connects the side panel to the top. Ooh. And just like that, the side panel hath come off. So instead of the back screws, that's the secret one which you need. So let's turn it back around. So the screw was like in the middle here. It's this one here. So it goes up and connects to the top panel. Well, that's a very weird design. What the hell? The cable comes all the way over here, down to the bottom, all the way back across, and then over here. I'm guessing that was just like the length the cable came, and they're like, well, we're going to have to do something with it. So they've just taped it down all across here. There's a random hole here, which doesn't do anything. Maybe it does something on a different printer design. This is another fan that I don't think is really set up properly. I didn't mention that at all in my review, partly because I sort of forgot about it, and partly because the prints were kind of fine without it. So I don't think it does anything, but it's there. I think it's set up in, like in the firmware, but not in the actual printer configuration. You know what's better? Don't take that off there. Just unplug it. You muppet. C. So there's got a little zip tie here. Just finished watching Maker's Muse review. His Wi-Fi works. Seems you got wonky. Oh, the Wi-Fi works for me. Sorry, maybe that wasn't clear. The Wi-Fi does work. I just think Wi-Fi is generally rubbish, which it is. And I prefer to just plug it in. And for a printer that's called... Oh, that was the wrong one. It calls itself a Pro printer. I think it should have Ethernet. It just seemed funny to me that they said on the thing, they gave some like technical information doodads. They're like, here you go. This is what the printer does. And they left it Ethernet. And then I got the printer and it didn't have it. So yes, this is your USB pass-through thing. I obviously unscrewed that earlier when I took out this extra adapter. What's it? So that goes down here. And that's connected into here. There you go, just a straight USB pass-through. Yeah, we'll just chuck it on the floor. That'll be fine. So now we're starting to get a look at the frame. Solid steel frame. See, like most of the printer, you could just put a panel straight on there, but they've decided to add this massive chonker of a side panel. So we've got the that in there. Oh, we're going to have to take this. I'm just looking in here. You're probably not going to see because it's pretty dark, but there's like studs that go to here, and I wonder if there's screws. Aha, the screws are on the inside. Okay, that's all right. I think the next thing would be to take off the other side panel. I think there's probably quite a few reviews of this printer today. From what I gather, a lot of people received one. Ah, I just remembered. I do have the smaller trays as well. I need to upload these to some site somewhere. I keep forgetting to. They're so useful for disassembly stuff. And for just generally using the ends of filament spools, and maybe that's not a problem that other people have, but they're good for just testing printers. And it's a functional print, so you can have quite a few and still make use of them generally. Ten videos in your feed. Well, hopefully nobody else is doing this. So at least this is unique if the review, even if the review isn't. Getting that one in the top holds it all together. Again, this is a self-tapping screw, whereas the others were machine screws. Oh, look at that. Caught in the tray. So we should be able to... No, so we've got some side screws here, probably because of the door. This might be a symmetrical panel, which is why there's extra heat inserts at the back, because some they use for the back and some they use for the front, and they just create them all to look the same, and then the side panel can go on both sides. That would be a sensible reason why both panels look identical. Okay, so here you get the heater and the rest of the panel. So let's try and work out how we can unplug this doohickey. This black wire goes in here, and aha, it's in this little bundle. Yep, that goes to there. Looks like it goes to fan 3. I think that's this one. Yeah, so this is the wire for the fan, 2-pin wire for the fan, and another 2-pin wire for the heater. So the heater's on the bottom, so we're going to have to do a bit of higgery-jiggery to get to that. Yeah, that's not ideal, is it? Shoot. How do we do this? Try and get this panel back into place kind of a bit. Ah. Oh. So this is this SSR under here. Now, annoyingly, they've put this sticky yuck over the top as an obvious attempt to stop people dismantling this, which is okay. I'd rather it be actually enclosed, though. As in, you can take the whole thing off, but you can't get inside it. My feed only 4. I'm missing out the rest. I'm going to have to cut this zip tie here. As you can see, we've got the 2 Z motors down here as well. Maybe I'm going to do a do not try this at home. I will do it now so that you do not have to. And you absolutely should not do this. The thing I'll be watching out for is capacitors, because since our power is not plugged in, there's not going to be live voltage unless there are capacitors which are storing that voltage. You know, they charge up and then they discharge, and hopefully there are none. So it's an SSR, which is kind of what we already knew. There's some extra circuitry there around the side. This is your out, this is your input. I don't think it's quite as dangerous as they make out. Let's make sure everything is discharged first. Still get nervous doing stuff like this. And then we need, unfortunately, I only have a metal screwdriver. Which is not ideal, I suppose, but it is what it is. I'm going to take a quick picture of this. That's a good way to phrase it. I phrased it on Twitter as Adam turns one thing into many things. I thought that was quite good. A better view would be nice, wouldn't it? It's very difficult to get. Oh. Maybe I'll move the camera around a bit. Look away now if you get nauseous. Keep looking away. Hopefully that will work a bit better. Hopefully working thing into many not working things. I put them back afterwards. You make me sound like some evil destroyer of 3D printers. For science, anyway. You can do anything for science. Just looking what the hell this blue and white cable is. If that's the output. I don't think it does anything. It looks like it connects to these components that are not soldered on. So I don't know what it's meant to do. But I don't think it does much anymore. I'm not sure. It might still work. But at a glance, it appears not connected. Okay. That is that. there are some capacitors on there, so I'm just going to carefully with these. I'm just shorting anything that could be capacitive with these 3000 or 1000 volt rated pliers. And only putting one hand near it, you notice. Just in case I miss something. There you go. That is that. There's no light. What I did try, I put this webcam up here as a thing for doing this. It's extra dark, but hopefully it means I can focus at short distance on these. That's what that looks like. Probably not great quality. Webcam is a little bit rubbish. Hopefully you get the picture. Let's put that somewhere away to one side where I will not touch it. So that's that bit out of the way. Now we can pull these cables through. Might do these steppers while I'm here as well. Oh, they're all... Let's go back to here. Are we hacking this one? We might be afterwards, at the end, or maybe another day. I don't know. I would like to put vanilla clipper on and create a solution to allow other people to do the same. But I also don't want to break the printer in the process. It did ask Qidi for the firmware so that I could flash it, and they were just like, you'll get it later. And in fact, they didn't say that. They were like, it's not available now, which doesn't mean it will be available later. They sort of encouraged me to hold my review back, which I was not best pleased with. But I couldn't find a way. I don't think I put that in the review in the end. I put some stuff about open source, but I didn't want to make it too long. I didn't want it to sound really unprofessional with the way I could only think of sarcastic responses to that, so I decided to not put it in, I think. Got no goopy glue for holding these back, holding the wires back in afterwards, but hopefully they'll be fine. Can't see this one very well because it's up the top. We can take this off now. I want to take a closer look at the heater. Maybe we'll just grab the glue instead of cutting it. Okay, let's take the cables out. I'm going to leave this clip in here. Weirdly, it just looks like they repurposed whatever else they used to mount there instead. A little bit strange. Get that back on there. And leave the rest in. We've got some holes here. Oh yeah, because this is a big old plastic piece separate to the rest of the metal frame. Because reasons. So we're going to be coming back to that in a minute, I think. Right. Let's just move that to one side for a second. Oh, it's all right. I want to have a closer look at this heater. Free cable to use in different products. A load of spare hours left of the injection molding company and decided to just churn out a 3D printer. Here's a weird and large amount of injection molded parts. So here we should have huge screws. Oh, and some posts. And then we have this weird arrangement of doohickeys. Got these kind of socks over the heating elements, presumably. Yeah, that's a larger screw type, I think. I think that's too big. Yep, number 3. The reason I find this interesting is because I think at some point we are going to be looking at integrating these kind of things into, well, people probably are already, but it's just, I don't think hugely popular yet. Integrating them into more open source 3D printers like your Vorons and your wet rigs. And making sure we find safe ways to do that is important. So when other companies do it, it's always worth taking a little look, see how they did it, see if it's a good method. So this is just a pretty standard 24-volt fan, I think. I don't think there's going to be anything hugely special about that. You'd think it would need to be high temperature, but it's always going to be spinning and pushing the, excuse me, the heat away, so potentially not. And then this is our heater core. I presume this is going to be fairly safe to touch. Don't think it's going to be very easy to pull that out of there though. I can try and give you a better look. So it looks like we've got the heater fins and then some sort of ceramic heating elements between those fins. But I'm not entirely sure how this is connecting this. Yeah, so it's positive in the middle, negative on the outside. See, this is very strange to me, and maybe it is the opposite of safe. You can see the red wire in the middle. You can't see the black wires because they're too dark. But they connect to those two here, the silicon parts of the sides. But they look like they're connecting directly to the fin array. And then those pads in the middle are presumably the heating parts. But having the conducting part as part of the fin sounds really not a good idea. We can have a little poke around with a multimeter. a good idea. It does seem a really bad idea. If those fins are live at 240 volts, that is bad, isn't it? So this is red. You are effing shitting me. What the actual fluck? Yeah. That doesn't seem like a safe way to do it. So these parts in the middle are presumably just, I don't know. How are they heating? Surely it's not just as a resistor. Are they using the fin array as a resistor? I don't know how this works. There's no path from here to here. This thing in the middle is hard. I think this might be a ceramic heater that's positive on this side, rather. Positive one side, negative the other. There's just a 240 volt PTC heater. PTC, hopefully, presumably there's no other temperature control, it's just on or off. Is it DC? No. This is AC. This is full, that's what this SSR is for. That SSR drives this heater and nothing else. I'm pretty sure. Yep. So this is the thing that goes to this. That's why there's 3 connectors. You know when I was pulling apart the SSR? That's why there were 3 connectors on one side. It's live ground earth. Live ground earth? Live neutral earth. Mains powered SSR. Switched with, oh, that's probably what the white wires are. That'll be what the white wires are. This is mains powered. What is the resistance? Well, there's no continuity, so there won't be resistance, will there? Don't you have to have one for the other? It looks like, if I'm reading this properly, 581 ohms, or 0.581 kilo ohms. So what would that make it? What's the maths on that? Oh yeah, we can also measure it just here. 582 ohms. 0.582 kilo ohms. I can't work out what that is. So 240 volts divided by 580 ohms is 0.4 amps. V over R is I. God, doing this live is not good. Let me turn it by 240. So it's 99.3, which comes out perfectly at basically 100 watts. This seems pretty sussy to me. I don't really like that. If that's what they are, that's what they are. I mean, you can touch them, though, through here. So, and I probably almost did when using the printer, when checking it out. So that's not great. It's just as well I didn't, because that would have been a nasty shock. Yes, that's a thing. Moving swiftly on. For 100 watts, why go mains? You could just do 24 volts, 4 amps. That's not that much. And then you don't need the SSR. You don't have super high voltage going through a fucking tiny little thing in your what's it doodah right out the front. That seems a very weird choice. And not a very safe one. Can we take the top off? Let's take the top off. Secondary school math coming club. Doing maths is easy. Doing the right maths on a live stream, not so easy. Yep, that's coming off. I thought it was a 300 watts. The bed is not mains. That is correct. The bed is 24 volts. The 100 watts only at room temperature, and it goes down massive with the temperature. Oh, which way is it? Positive temperature coefficient. So the power goes down as it gets hotter. Right? So the peak power at room temperature is 100 watts. And the more we shove into it, it will go down so that it can't run away. As in, if you just keep applying voltage, it will get to a set point and not be able to go further because the resistance will go so high that it can no longer heat. But we don't know that that's actually what it is because there's no data. I don't believe every heater that looks like that would have to be a PTC heater. Right, let's try and get this front off. Because I don't think we can get... The front is kind of covering up the top. I don't think we can take... It's very difficult to do when the light is like shining right in your eyes. $300 watt chamber heater. No, it is a 100 watt chamber heater. Did I already say that? I don't know. Oops. This is going to take a long time to disassemble and reassemble. Every time I do it, I second guess whether it's worth the effort. You never know how deep you've got to go before you find the interesting stuff. Until after you've done it, of course. I was expecting that to move off a little bit more, but clearly doesn't want to. Ha. Gonna have to deal with the bed somehow. Doesn't want to turn it. Oof. Do not do this either. Okay, it's pretty wibbly wobbly now. Can we do the wibbly wobbly on this bit as well? It's coming away. So let's remove these. Just take a quick picture of this. So hopefully somehow, it's going to be one of those weird top screws. Yeah, looks like we've got 3 screws in here. No? Whoop, there we go. So I've got the filament sensor up here that needs to come out, and we need to take out, unplug the wires. It's getting very wobbly now. Wires here. Where the hell is that one going? In there. Look out of there. Over here. Down here. That's the screen. This is the other USB device, as I mentioned. We need to take the fan doubly off. Just going to put the screws back in if I can. Keep them in the right place. This is just a standard 40mm fan, nothing special about that. This is the webcam, which you could probably just plug into any device, to be honest. It's just a USB webcam. And this is the connector for something 2-pin. Oh, the LEDs. The LEDs get an extra large MOSFET, I think. And then we have this Hooji What's It. So we've got the filament sensor, which I do want to take a look at. I think that's potentially quite an interesting little thing. And that's the tool head wire. This should all come off. Oh, apart from this. There we go. I don't think this is screwed in. No, it just kind of clips into place. So we've got the filament sensor on there. This is the LCD panel, cable, panel, cable, panel, panel, cable. And we have, oh, they've done one of them things with the sticker. You absolute. They've got nuts on the back of screws, and then the sticker on the front covers up the heads of the screws. The metal is frame. The frame is metal. That lot, pretty much all that's excluding this, everything that's remaining is a steel frame. It weighs an absolute boatload. Which is why it's so disappointing that they put this ugly looking plastic shell on the outside. Like, why not just do something that actually looks cool? And then you can justify your epic steel frame underneath as well. Tada! Das ist LCD. Yeah, there's just like screw heads in under here. In the event that I do end up getting rid of this printer, I think I'll try and keep it as good looking for the next person as possible. That's another huge piece of plastic out of the way. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Let's get the filament sensor off, get all the plastic out of the way, and then we can start doing some interesting things. "3D print a new enclosure." You know what? This is one of the things I was genuinely going to do. Oh, I can't get this off. Not necessarily 3D print, partially 3D printed, maybe do some design work, spend way too much time on it, make absolutely no money. You know, the normal YouTuber thing. They've wrapped this in heat shrink sleeving for some reason. It starts here. This is a sensible amount of heat shrink sleeving, and then it goes all the way down the cable. It's like they forgot to specify when to stop, so they just did the whole thing. So this is an interesting Hujima flip. It's like a spring-loady filament sensor, motion sensor, stop sensor. If you know that system from the Bamboo, it reminds me of that. And you know that sticker that I showed at the very end? Has anyone watched the review? The last, like, 3 seconds? just a belay. It has a filament sensor that is different from others. That is just an infrared sensor. Just notice when the filament gets too short and triggers when the filament is too short. Which is a bit weird. Whoa! Good luck finding that. Oh dear. This is why we wear safety glasses when we take apart things that have springs in them. Because springs go spring. Arse. Oh, well, there goes my hopes of putting it back together. So there's a spring that goes. I'm going to have to hunt for that. Oh, it's just here. Oh, and that bit straight in on here. This is the wrong way up. I got lucky there. It's a very weird assembly. It looks a bit overcomplicated for what it actually does. Maybe I'm misunderstanding exactly how it works. I think it's quite interesting anyway. I don't think we found anything clever yet. That's probably not the word for it. The heater was interesting. Pretty interesting. Maybe not in a good way, but it was interesting. This is a filament sensor. I think that's quite interesting. Right, this is the screen. Let's see if I can take some photos on my phone. Hello, photo. So this chip says AIHMI T7 2332 N8 V13207. That looks like the main logic chip. And then there's another thing here which I can't really read the text of. This says mates 1218 VCC 5 volts. It's got an SD card, presumably micro SD card for updating the firmware. Is this? We're not going to find it up there. Can we do it up here? Looks alright, although I can't get it straight, and I don't know if it's super in focus. And then YouTube compression will destroy it anyway. And then on the front, it's just literally a plain screen. So I guess what we need to try, the thing what we got to figure out is, can we use this screen with portrait clipper screen? Does clipper screen do portrait, or does Guppy screen do portrait? What firmware do we need to flash, and how do we need to configure it to get all of these extra bits working? And then remove all of their horrible little firmware. There's a weird spring washer thing there. Oh, and I've just seen how amazingly this webcam is fixed. That's interesting. We'll continue with this bit for now, though. We'll move on to the control board, because I know that will be popular. Let's unplug some bits and bobs. One thing I do quite like is lots of these connectors are color coded. So the green one for this one, blue one for this one. Unfortunately, this is a red connector and the one on the board is blue, but at least it's kind of a different color. And then these ones up the top are color coded as well, which is quite nice. Helps you with, I think they do it because it helps them with assembly, but obviously it will help you with reassembly or disassembly if you want to. And I guess because there is so much space back here, if you wanted to design a different control board to go in here, should be pretty easy to do. You'd need the mounting holes for this control board, maybe create an adapter plate, and then mount your own control board on the top. Piece of piss. I've just realised I forgot to take any photos, but I think I have some from before, so I can use those if I get desperate. And then there's this little one in the middle. Is there an SD card for the main board? Yes, over here. You don't get access to it from the outside of the printer. So if you want to send files to the printer, you need to use USB. Well, if you want to send files to the printer physically, then it's USB. But I would recommend using, oh my goodness. I would recommend using the web interface and sending directly over the network. These are the ones that are soldered, the ones I mentioned in the review. Yeah, the yellow and white are soldered. Right, that should be that lot. How long have we been going? An hour and 15 minutes. I feel like we've barely touched it. So, the chip on here is an ARM Z STM32F402. So that would be the firmware type that we need to configure in Clipper to flash this board with Clipper, which should be doable. Although we don't know of the pin configuration, which is a slight downside. It might be the same as the SKIP-R, which I believe it's based on, but I don't know that for sure. Apparently this board is actually the X7 version 1.0. Only 4 stepper drivers, interesting. Y, X and Z1 and Z2, because of course you've got your E, your extruder driver on the toolhead board. So I think I already got some high resolution photos of this while I was doing the review. I don't think they made it into the actual video though. If I don't do the disassembly until later, I can take some with my proper camera as well as the phone, because those will definitely be better photos. It does use eMMC memory, which is apparently good, but I don't know exactly why. I think it's just more durable than reading off an SD card. The downside is you have to have a little adapter, which isn't included if you want to take that to a PC. Which I think you would need to do if you were to try and flash Clipper. Maybe, maybe not. Not sure. Probably, yes, because that is basically your SD card for your single board computer. So apparently this one, these wires that are soldered, this is labeled TB, so I'm assuming that's thermistor bed. Let's see if I can show you this board briefly up here. It's not the best lighting conditions, is it? And it makes my arm ache having to hold it up super high just so you can see an image. It's a very weirdly contrasty image. It just looks a bit yuck, doesn't it? The whites are blown out and the darks are blown out. What a rubbish camera. I don't know if the green heatsink is supposed to be angled or not, to be honest. I think it is, because by the looks of what's underneath, all of those components are angled 45 degrees. So I think it's meant to be 45 degrees, which I think it is on the SKIPR, because the chip is actually sort of diagonal relative to everything else. Here they've tried to rotate it, but can't rotate it very far, so it looks like it's just placed on wonky. But I think it's deliberately wonky, even though it does look like a mistake, and I don't think they're gaining anything by having it slightly angled. Oh, there's a whole load of goop on the stepper motor connectors. Let's take that off. If we can. Or just rip the whole lot out. There we go. Gloop. Wire. Right. That's fan here, that's here, that's here, that's here, that's down here. We can poke this lot through here for the bed. Where did the clip go? Oh, rats. It's here. That's that there. Now, you, Mr. Power Supply, how are you mounted? I think the screws is on the other side, because I can't see any way to access it on this side. We do have a nice little earth point though, which is good. Sort of. Is it good? There's a nut on the back. It's sort of there. Not perfect, better than nothing. Yeah, I think that's on the other side. What we can take off though is this, by the looks of it. This is the kind of weird little arm that does the nozzle brush cleaning thing. Actually a kind of interesting assembly. So as the printer comes towards the back of the printer, it hits this, and that gets this bit to shoot out. So that's that. And then it wipes the nozzle across this pad, although like it gets pretty gunked up pretty quick and is now just sort of a smooth pad with a bunch of plastic embedded in it. So time will tell whether it's actually a good way to clean a nozzle, because anything can clean a nozzle once. Is whether you can repeatedly clean it without having to change that little pad every 2 weeks or something daft. So it's a nice little metal bracket, but most of this assembly is plastic, which is why when it's extended and the printer's going over it, all kind of wobbles to and fro. But it does work. From my experience, it does clean the nozzle, but I don't know how long for. This is a wire. Let's get that out of the way. This is a wire. Let's get that out of the way. This is a wire. Get that out of the way. Right. We need to go to the inside. Let's take the bed away and the little tray. This little tray is the purge bucket, so that brush I just mentioned, it purges into here. It's a pretty small tray and it's kind of stuck behind the bed whilst printing, so while the bamboo's version of like kicking it out the back seems a bit weird because you just end up with a pile of plastic out the back of your printer, it does give you an option to manage it into like an infinitely large bucket. And you can kind of empty it mid-print without disturbing the print. Whereas here, you would have to pause the print, move the bed down, reach around and try not to knock the thing to get the tiny little tray out. So when they have an AMS system, and this is all the purge you get, yeah, not sure how well that's going to go, but that's what they've got at the moment. So these are the screws. Let's see if we can get to them. Not that size. Just realised before we take out that last screw, we should undo the wires on the terminals because we don't want to be pulling on them. That's a wire. Oh my goodness. Oh, what am I doing? Wire. Temporary brain fart there. No, that needs to go this way. Three out the back. Right. Really turn with the plastic parts. Try not to drop the screwdriver on the floor in the process. And then the last screw. And there's your power supply. So as I mentioned in the review, Mornsun LM350-10B24, so 350 watt, 24 volts. 24 volts at 14.6 amps to be specific. pretty dense, beefy power supply. Don't know what it's like in terms of power factor or anything like that. Don't know if it's got regulation coverage for EU or anything like that. It's just what it is. Ah. Blimey, Charlie. Right. That's a stepper motor cable. I feel like I'm just doing a lot of unwiring. If there's anything less than wiring a printer, it's unwiring a printer. This is not going anywhere. Just realised this is all plastic, so where's that connecting into? Some of these screws are going to be holding this plastic piece in. Let's see if we can find those. I'm not sure if the panel will come out straight away. Not sure if it's part of the bottom panel as well, or if it's a separate piece. Oh, there's wiggle room. Yeah, it wiggles, but it's ultimately captured by all this other stuff around it. So we need to undo some more screws, I think, onto the face here. Okie dokie, see you in a bit. Hello, Steve. Good to see you. Oh, goodness me. There we go. Right, that's connected. I've disconnected from there, I think. Doesn't really move. I wonder if this is connected up through that as well. Ooh. Oh no, this here. Loads of flipping screws. Determined to find the middle of this printer. Take all the plastic parts and leave the metal core. That is disconnected now. No, that's still not disconnected. How about that? No, that's still not disconnected. That's 5 screws from one corner already. Let's try this foot. I wouldn't expect the foot to be connected all the way up here. Something doesn't like that. Weird. Let's try. So I think that's connected to a heat insert, which is spinning in its mount, which is why it's not coming out. Yeah, I think there's a whole load of gluing going on there, maybe, something like that. The question is, why is this not coming away from here? Oh, I think it is. Yeah. Let's move this one. That I'm very sure it's connecting into the steel. Oh, there's loads through here. This one. This one. This one. This one. This one. This is going to be one of the most difficult reassemblies so far, I think. There's just an absolutely gargantuan number of screws. Okay, that is not connected now. Where's all these wires from? Just stuff. Okay. Feel free to keep asking questions while I'm doing things. If you have any questions. It would make me quite happy if we can get an alternative frame for this printer. It's just huge amounts of yucky looking design. I think the steel frame and therefore the mechanics that it holds, the mechanical assembly, is actually quite good. Looks pretty durable. I mean, being a steel frame, that's kind of what you'd expect. Okay, these don't move easily, I think, because they're stuck in, glued in a little bit, as well as screwed. Now we have more screws. Don't know what this is actually holding. Need the ball end 2 mil. I just noticed that motor, I think, is sandwiching the plastic, which is annoying. Is that the same as those? Yes. Yes? No. Yes? Close enough. Don't know if we're going to be able to take that out without taking the motor off. Interesting. Which means maybe we need to take these bits out. Oh, let's have a quick pit stop with this. This really poorly mounted camera. It has 2 thumb screws that are just jammed into the metal and that bend a little plastic bracket. Just basically a USB webcam. You could probably just plug it into the computer and it would boot up. It would work. That's my guess. Oh, let's get this little thing. This is what the back of it looks like. High quality USB 1080. So presumably it's a 1080p or 1080i, 1080 horizontal lines webcam up to. And then this horrible bracket which comes with it. Interesting webcam. Again, if that's... I thought the quality of the webcam was actually reasonable. It's just the lighting angles and stuff let it down a bit. But again, you could like baffle your lighting or add a diffuser, and that'll help immensely, I think, in improving the quality. And then this one, oh yes, this was the lights. They mount to the top, so we can take that out as well. Again, the LEDs are a really weird choice because they're sort of stuck on, but also have this bracket. Yeah, I didn't really like the lights, to be honest. They're really harsh white. So, as in they're kind of like a blue clinical white as opposed to a more neutral daylight, or even a warm light can be quite nice. It's funny, the more we strip it down, the more it just looks like a bamboo printer, doesn't it? Like a P1P. How to make a bamboo P1P. Step 1, buy a Qidi Tech Q1, remove all external panels. So I think we need to take out these bits here, and then this comes with the base and these legs go with the top. And that's how those two assemblies come together, I think, maybe. Or we take the motor out, but then we have to unscrew the whole, yeah, I think these screws. I kind of wanted to get the metal frame separate to the plastic bit, but how come? We can do that, I suppose. It's still viable from this position. I don't want to touch the lead screw because it's incredibly greasy. This is the one thing I'm trying to avoid. Which might not be very easy. Oh no, we can get in there. And the problem next is taking that lead screw and getting it down. Whoop. Well, that certainly did what I wanted it to do. But now I have to turn it. So I'm going to need gloves for that. I think I would prefer gloves for that, because that's going to be very, very messy if not. But I do think the kind of want to do it the factory assembly way, because it will make it much easier to get stuff back together. I'm stuck here. This is going to make a bit of a mess doing it this way, I think. If you were to do it yourself and you're going to dismantle it, take out these screws here that at both ends of this, at both ends of here, there's two here and there's two at the ends. If you take that out, then the top gantry will come with 4 long legs and the base will come with this bed part. And I think those will just come apart really nice and easily. So I think that's probably the way to do it. Oh, that's just a whole metal piece. Oh, that's probably their reinforcement from when they had that problem with the first version that they're like Q1 Max or whatever it was. And everyone was like, oh, the stepper motors are all like bending and it's all mounted on plastic. I think that's when they added that metal piece. That would be me guess. Yeah, I've not really solved this problem though now. I think we're going to have to still do the other thing, which I then didn't want to do, but we'll now have to do. I'm going to undo what I've just done and do what I suggested I do rather than what I've actually done. Off topic, thanks for cauliflower. My printer is now printing square. Oh, that's good to know. It's good to see so many people getting good use out of that calibration print. I think it's legitimately like the only calibration print at the moment, which is really objective, a really objective way to determine performance and correct it. Which is why lots of people are trying to copy it. Right, let's do the actual thing which I suggested, because I think it's going to result in a better disassembly. It's made me surprisingly warm at doing all of this. It's not exactly intense exercise, but quite a bit of effort, I suppose, like spinning and turning the printer and whatnot. I think this is going to do what I hope it's going to do. There's always special things. I can't remember now. Nearly 2 hours in, I've forgotten what's happened at the beginning. Oh, this head is a bit damaged. Ooh. Bits of metal all over the place. Nice. Oh, dangerous-wise, we did have this heater. The heater is just like the fins are live 240 volts. Which is not ideal from a safety perspective. Oh no, we've got this far. They've shredded this screw. It just free spins. No! The last screw. Oh. We're going to have to attack it. Oh, you absolute nugget. Okay, I think we've got it. If you ever do assembly and damage a screw putting it in, fix it then. Don't just jam it in further. Right. So, what should happen now, it's just some random plastic, If I shake it, the bottom should just fall out and the top will come loose. Ta-da! Nope. So that's the mid panel. That can go away. We haven't got to the bed yet. For some reason, I've left it till last. So this is the tray. So this is like really the main interesting bit. This top part here is all one piece, which is nice. So this whole top square, you can see there's no joint in that. That's all one piece. So that'll keep the whole gantry pretty stiff. And you've got dem legs what support the rest of the frame, innit? I've got no space now. I guess I'll just start taking screws out of this. Take these legs off. I'm hoping once we take the legs off, legs, all the gantry parts will all still stay in place. Because they're all hopefully fixed to that top piece rather than these legs. Nice! So that's your leg. These are all going to be symmetrical, I presume. Rotationally symmetrical. Ooh. Oh, there's another dodgy screw that they've effed up. Mm. The thing is, the screw's probably damaged because they didn't get it in straight. You can see it's coming out totally wonky. I'm guessing that's what happened. One last corner piece. That is a really nice... Ah, I didn't notice that before. The belt paths are not straight. Well, that's not very good, is it? They seem straight down. Oh no, one's wonky. Not great. Right, let's move that to one side for a minute. And I'm going to deal with this bed. So this is another ground wire. That's good. Although, maybe it's not. What is it? Just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's just like a JST connector connected to nothing. Bizarre. Sure, it is what it is. We'll just accept that and put it over there. This one doesn't have one. Strange, very strange. Are these symmetrical? Yeah, even these are symmetrical. So you put it here for one. For the other one, you move that over to there, and your holes are here instead. Here, 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 here. Don't know where exactly. Still, interesting. Even when the assembly is non-symmetrical, the parts within it are. Cost efficiency. Right. So, the bed. I think these screws here are going to help me take the whole bed off. And then it just lifts off. Oh, it does. Right. Oh, there's a ball there. That's come out of a bearing somewhere. That's not good. This is grease central. What's these little... Oh, those are the stickers. Yes. So, that's for the bed wiring. Another earth point, that's good. Nice to get lots of those in place. Good job. Screws into plastic, but at least they've sanded down the surface so you get good contact. Although we need to now take this out. I think these ones around the side are just the massive plastic cover that does absolutely nothing apart from try and make it look better than it does. Although arguably the sheet metal appearance would be just as nice and save you some money. Yeah, I'd rather have it just like that. If I reinstall it, I might just not even put this part back on and find another way to do that earth. Because this plastic part actually is like a raised rim around the edge of the bed. When it goes on here, this is slightly higher than the bed. So as you put the bed plate on, if you don't get it perfectly straight, it touches the plastic bit and the edge goes up. So if it then probes and it goes to that point near the edge of the bed where the bed is then not touching the surface, rather touching the plastic, then it screws things up. Don't need this at all. Bed still works perfectly well. Way fewer problems. Now to here, this is where we got these fancy pants load cell doobly-doos again. So something we're starting to see more and more. Interestingly, they've just gone with 3 load cells instead of 1 on each corner. And they've integrated it seemingly into their mounting points as well. So there's your load cell leckies. So 5 volts, ground data and something. QDHBDET version 1.1. So it looks like you have one of these driver boards for each of the load cells. These plug into the main bit, and that then just triggers like a sensor or something. Interestingly, as always, there's a 4th option that's just not fitted. Fitted for, but not with. Not that you'd necessarily need more than 3 anyway, so I don't see a problem with leaving it exactly how it is. I don't really want to remove the bed from here because of these weird bed mounting corner things which are positioned just right, and I don't really want to change them. There's a plastic cap and some, I wouldn't necessarily call it strain relief, but some thick heat shrink sleeving around it. Nice little, this little plastic cap at the back helps you position the bed along that edge. It's not great. I'd rather 2 at the edges than 1 in the middle, because the 1 in the middle still allows you to kind of pivot it, even though it's kind of wide. It's not quite wide enough to really locate it nicely. And then, yeah, this is your load cell electronics. Let's try and get that in the middle of the screen. So you can see the main board in the middle, the larger one, and then the 3 smaller ones between the main board and the load cells. So when the nozzle touches the bed, it goes bloop, and those all trigger at certain loads and whatever. Can I, as a wish thing, can I as/wish a thing about the cauliflower and calla lantern? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you ask about it, or can you ask that I do something to change it? Are you asking a feature request? That sounds like what you're asking. In which case, go ahead. I can't promise I'll do anything. I mean, I'm actively working on it quite a lot, but can't really share too much about that right at this moment. But yeah, solid bed plate. Like this is again like a, it's aluminium or steel. I feel like it might be aluminium because it's not that heavy, but it is quite heavy. But it's pretty thick. It's like proper chunky. So that's the bed. I might just put that back on the bed actually before I put that away. Yes, feature request. Yeah, go for it. Industrial blue paper. Doesn't everyone have blue paper? It was always at the workshop at the engineering place I worked, but this is like rubbishy stuff. I prefer the like papery stuff. It's like more durable and more absorbent. This stuff's a bit rubbish. But good blue roll is good to have. So this is what we've got left. These parts in themselves are reasonably interesting. These are like a glass-filled, glass fiber-filled plastic. Are these? Got some, rubber tops. Huge amounts of lubrication and grease on this side for some reason. I do wonder when I see lots of grease like that, whether it's because like there is an assembly problem and they've got like a way to measure how easily it spins, and if it doesn't spin easily enough, they just add loads of grease. I don't know. It could just be totally wrong. I hope it's totally wrong. Are we going to learn more by taking this apart? Let's do it anyway. We've got this far. Be ashamed to not finish it off. Should get some, I guess. It's pretty useful, I think. It's like kitchen roll, but for a workshop. Everyone has kitchen roll, don't they? Kitchen towel, whatever. Just for mopping up and dealing with shit. Not literally. Can you change the distances, the measurements in that way that all have a different length? Interesting. I can see how that would make an interesting way to help avoid duplicate measurements, or incorrect measurements, I mean. But trying to deal with that in the calculator may be more of a fuss than is really going to benefit anyone. Yes, sir, the sheet can directly detect which of the measurements it is. Also, the measurements are correct. I don't think it'd be able to. I mean, it depends how different the measurements are. The problem is they all need to be close enough to each other to get the same level of accuracy on each. But they'd have to be far enough away that it would be independently checkable. I like the idea in theory. I think in practice it might be, well, we're not really getting any further there, are we? Zombie hedgehog, hello. Oh, I made a TikTok as well about this assembly. I want to check it now, because once you've published a video, you have to check how well it's doing. After literally like 3 minutes, it had 3,000 views. I was like, what the actual F? How did it do that much? I checked half an hour later, so it was like 30k. So now I'm going to check again because it's exciting. 40k. What the hell? How is it on 40,000 views in like 3 hours? First is 100, second is 110, but then you can't go further than 150, and then scaling it up, it would mess it around. Oh, we can get this up. There's clippy things on the top. Oh, but I can't get to the clippy things on the bottom, which also needed to get that out. Yeah, that power connector, once it's in, it's in. It's such a weird little housing for it, though. I don't get it. Right, let's... It's so hot, it's nearly 66. Yeah. The chamber heater, although potentially lethally dangerous... Oh, something's just cracked as I... taking that last screw out. It does heat the chamber pretty quick. Oh, they've glued stuff in? I don't know why. So you got some pretty standard LM8 LUU bearings in the base there. It's the first machine I've had with a heated chamber, not sure what to do with it even. Yeah, I missed it well. I didn't, it's not in my review because I hadn't checked it. Look, I'll show you again now. So these wires, 240 volts. Yeah, directly mains heated. And you get, well, I won't do it because I've packed the what's it away. It's earlier in the video. You get direct continuity from the wires to the fins, which you can see and touch through this cover. I mean, I can only touch it with my fingernail. It's mostly covered if you were to, but it's like, that's dangerously close for 240 volts. And it's just, the fins are just live. They're just, it's a big live level of dangerous. It's a bit on the risky side. And we worked it out. We measured the resistance, and the power outage, the power output is about 100 watts. I think, if my maths is correct, hopefully it is. I'm good at maths, but I'm not good at maths on live stream. So yeah, I think about 100 watts, in which case, why not do it with low voltage? If it was like 500 watts, then yeah, sure, let's do mains voltage, because otherwise we're dealing with super high currents. But for the sake of like 4 amps at 24 watts, what a bizarre choice to go with mains voltage with a heater like that. I think Qidi really need to work on their aesthetic. These big plastic panels that are all like bulbousy and plastic, they're just yuck, man. I'm sure they could do so much better. Some more aggressive design language, whatever you want to call it, styling. And then just don't bother faffing around with the flipping firmware. Jesus. They spend, I'm sure, a lot of time making so many modifications, and it would be better to just not to do any of them. Slap your name massive on the front of the printer and just leave the flipping screen as Clipper Screen or Guppy or some other good, well-tested user interface. So you don't have to modify Clipper, so we get stock, standard, fully functional, updatable, working Clipper. Please. Thank you. I really need someone to go through my live streams and just take out highlights. That would be really nice. That's assuming anything I say is a highlight, but you know what I mean. Just the bits where I'm actually talking. These are quite interesting on their own, just because they're made different to every other part. These are like a fiber-filled injection mold, whereas everything else is not fiber-filled. It's just plain plastic. So they've obviously determined that these needed the additional rigidity, even though it's got the whopping great metal plate over the top. Yeah, interesting. It looks like these bearings just force in. Well, there's a distinct rattle to that. You probably can't hear it. Probably noise cancels. Yeah. I don't think these are very lubricated. And interesting that it's so little force to push it in and out. So, not sure what else is holding them in. Is what it is. Seems to be okay. I don't know what the other printer chamber heaters was, because I don't have those other printers. My assumption, based on the reusage of other parts, is that anything that exists in those printers and is looking the same here will be exactly the same thing. Because that's what companies do. They make efficient use as much as possible to minimize costs and optimize the profit. Which is, bear in mind, not necessarily a bad thing. I have a company too, and I try to do the same. Maybe not quite to the same extent or in the same manner. So this is absolutely, like, this is like the amount of proper metal, like this is like 1.6, maybe 2 millimeter thick steel plate. And then they just cover it in this ugly plastic. Man. It's really distressing me how nice, well, it's not like super nice, but the mechanical stuff is, I think, pretty good. And they just effed around with extra bits and made it worse. So these are 8mm rods, carbon steel. Not sure, they look chrome plated. They might just be hardened. It's difficult to tell. Those just press into the bottom. So it looks like this is kind of the frame setup that they used to have. So it looks like the reason we've got loads of lubrication going everywhere, we've got two different types. We've got grease on the lead screw and a light oil on the linear bearings. It might be nice to put a thicker lubricant in those linear bearings. Now, you don't want anything too thick because you need them to roll around. If you put in like thick lubricant, then they don't roll properly. They kind of slide, and that's when they end up being like the scratchy noise. But the distance they move on the Z is not very much, so grease, probably not the big end of the world. So you can see this is the third motor, which is not there. So, yeah, I presume the X-Max 3 or something had 3 motors, and this one doesn't, even though this is now called the Pro and only has 2 motors. This frame was clearly designed for 2, and it looks like they've had to re-injection mold all of these bases to suit this extra steel plate. That must have cost an absolute fortune. Oh, is there holes in the bottom? Oh, amazing! Didn't expect that. So this power connector, I was like, oh, you can get to the things at the top, and then you can pop it out. But you can't get to the ones at the bottom because they're now under the bottom. They put a little hole in the bottom, so you can poke the thingy. Hopefully, kind of. There we go. Ta-da! Yes. Wires. And that is the base. A huge whopping great chunk of plastic. So the last thing to look at now is this gantry, which is pretty cool, actually. Got to be a bit careful because the edges of the steel are not super soft. Where's me blue roll gone? Like, this is a decent looking gantry, in my humble opinion. It's not perfect because the belt lengths are a little bit squiff, which is a bit disappointing, considering I don't see, I suppose there's some cost effectiveness which has resulted in some not straight belt paths, I think, which is a little bit disappointing. But largely actually quite cool. Now, the downside is, the thing that sticks down the most is the nozzle, so we've got to be a bit careful here. Ooh, I wonder if I can use these cups. Perfect. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, this hasn't worked perfectly, but it's not going to be a problem for long. So I think what we're going to do is just directly unbolt all of these dooblies from the top. Would you say the chamber heater is not dangerous if just not touched when on, or is it a possible fire hazard? Every heater is a possible fire hazard. There's no way around that. If it's a PTC heater, then the risk of thermal runaway is greatly reduced, but I believe still not zero. The main danger that I've been talking about is regarding access with fingers to live mains voltage. I want to take this printer and just swap out the body. Yeah, looks like it, doesn't it? Although, good luck getting all those screw locations and everything. Like, if we had like a step file open source CAD of the frame, it doesn't even have to be fully open source, just step files would be cool. So we can make a custom frame for this printer. I really want them to start doing like bare bones. I mentioned this, I think, last year at my, or it might have been with the K1C. Yeah, I think it was with the Creality K1C. And it just gets frustrating when they do the mechanical things kind of pretty well and then fudge up like a good majority of the electronics, or cheap out on one of the components like a rubbish Hotend or something. And there's just like, well, this whole printer, this like maybe £600 to £900 investment in a printer that's supposed to be ready to run is ruined by one component. It just, with a bare bones kit, or not a kit, but a bare bones sort of half ready to run machine, I think you could solve a lot of those problems. Although then it's not really ready to run because you have to install some parts yourself. I don't know. I'm sure there's no easy solution, which is why we are where we are. But as a printer platform, I'd say this is pretty close to very good. Once, in terms of like access to modification in order to achieve an end result of a very good printer. Do you think the Qidi will make it safer in the future? I have no idea. Most people just aim to make it cheaper. So on that basis, probably not, but I don't know them. Maybe they have some really great people that want to focus on other aspects of good printers. I don't know. We can hope. But this is, I mean, this is the first time I've worked with Qidi on anything. I say work with. I mean, they sent me the printer, and that's kind of, there's not a lot of communication after that. Oh, okay, they go there. So I don't really know them as such. I've not talked to anyone other than the one marketing person who sent me the printer. Gantry frame. VFAs is not really to do with input shaper and acceleration. So maybe you're talking about ghosting or something like that. I'm running out of things to remove. This I just quite like this. I wish they did the back the same as the front. The front goes on like this and just snaps down, magnets, bish bash bosh, job done. Perfect. Why does the back have 4 freaking screws? Make the back magneto as well. And then you have full magneto. Much better for maintenance. Should have done this before I took everything else apart, probably. That's the back and the front. That comes off with just the JST-XH connector. That goes there, that's out of there. And then it's just 2 screws to take this whole lot off, I think. I suppose at this point it's 2 more screws, but again, I quite like this assembly. For some reason, I just think it's rather nice. This goes here, goes there, bish bash bosh. Connectors for your fan, hot end, and thermistor. Bibbidi bobbidi boom. That's your hot end and extruder. And then you've got the motor nicely positioned directly between the rails. Excuse me. Is the tool head spring-loaded like those other new CoreXYs? Tool head spring-loaded. Do you mean the belts? I think they are. We'll get there in a minute. Oh, these 2 go with this. Oh, that's where that other one came from. Yes. That goes on here. That goes on here. No, I mean like the bearings. I think that's how the bamboo and the quality do it. Oh, I have a delivery. If I can get out. Slightly not the ideal time for a delivery, but you know, you get to choose these things. Ugh. Right. Got this little probe down here that I kind of want to remove before it gets damaged. Oh, there's 2 screws. I don't know how they managed to do it, but they've basically got an inductive probe that's really, really short. They're normally like 50 millimeters long, but this one's dinky. I don't know how it's held in there. Press fit, glue. Probably glue. That's again nice, decent sized JST XH connector in the back. That's just a standard kind of inductive probe. Probably you see cups now. Next what should we do next? Got these belts and whatnot. I think this is the belt tensioner. Right. Since you're that way around, maybe we can do. So this little zip tie takes this cable. And we have access here, and then with 2 little screws down here should give us this little PCB connector, which I mentioned I like in the review, but I've never disconnected it. This should just come off. Yeah, nice and easy. Oh, they've glued over it. That's a bit gross, but otherwise not too bad. Don't know what its current rating and stuff is. Maybe not super high, but I don't think this is going to. Yeah, that's not going to come off very easily, so I'm just going to leave that dangling. Got this little wire for the filament sensor. This little wire for the motor. Then we can maybe take off the PCB. Now this is another custom board based on a MakerBase design. Can't remember what it's called. I did find at some point what it was called, but in the process of making the review, forgot it, so... You might have your plugs on the control board in the wrong place. You have to have them in the right place for sensorless homing to work. There's normally a enable disable thingy. And I'm guessing most of the stuff you've tried will have been the firmware dooblies. So this is the A7 version 1.0. Interestingly, it's got lots of conformal coating on it, which is an odd choice, considering we don't expect it to get wet at all. But it is what it is. And this uses an RP2040. So that looks like that. Maybe up here. You can see the kind of gunkiness from the conformal coating. It makes it look wet, but I assure you it's not wet. God, this camera is dog ugly. Ugh. Let's go back to zoomies. And then we've got the stepper motor, some belt grabbers. I think this might be the only 2 countersunk screws in the entire build. Oh, it's like sandwiched in the middle. That's interesting. Right, we're going to have to do more to get the bearings out then. Onto a third tray. So that's the stepper motor. Quite thick actually for a small stepper motor. Yeah. Pretty chunky. And you can see the helical gear on the front there as well. Sort of. It's difficult to see. Yeah. It should help reduce pressure differential in the nozzle from the gears. So we've got these graphite bearings. And they are trapped in that housing. Right, next. That's only 3. Where's the 4th one? This is another kind of weird one because this is a metal plate over a plastic part. Would you so far say the printer is worth the money or a good printer? For that, you kind of have to watch my review, I suppose. There's never a straight answer to that. It's always, it depends. And that's what the review is kind of for. So we're back to NMA LUU bearing type instead of the graphite bearings for the gantry. For the y-axis, only X gets the graphite ones. Don't know why. It's just the way it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I think I'm going to take these belts off. I was going to try and avoid doing it, but I want to see the bearings and pulleys and stuff, so need to. Oh, these are countersunk screws as well. Oh, please don't say they're glued in. I think they are kind of glued in. Without a doubt, this is going to be the most difficult reassembly I've ever done. I've totally forgotten where everything goes. It's like a maximum amount of stuff I can remember in one go, and I don't think I'm going to remember this. Oh, there's an extra. That's the little cable holder. Yeah, these are all a bit stuck. Even without the screws in place, they're staying stuck down, so I'm pretty sure they're glued. Not anymore! Right, that whole thing can go out the way. Oh, goodness me. I'm sure loads of people just randomly suggesting where stuff go is definitely going to help. I can't imagine anything more useful. Are they gates? They are gates. Gates belts. So from here we can now maybe push the bearing dooblies out. How are the rods held in? Oh, the rods are like super duper glued, I think. Yeah, holy balls, that's not a repairable assembly. That's not coming out. Can we push the gears out though? Yes. Oh, okay, that looks like a lot of wear. Holy balls McGee. What the flip? Okay, what the actual F? Have they pulled the Creality on me, or does they wear really, really fast? So they've changed, so the profile of these is different to normal. They've got like chamfered edges. Can you see it? So these edges end up really sharp, and they kind of It doesn't even look symmetrical. And they've got these little black parts at the edge. Switch back to here. That black part at the edge is just like a cap which goes over the bearing, which is just like a standard bearing underneath. Can't get it off. I think it's just a plastic. It's basically a tiny spacer. Good afternoon, Pedro. Yeah, so under there. Oh my goodness. There you can see now. It's just like a standard bearing pressed into that aluminium pulley. But I think they've machined custom pulleys for this. They're razor sharp. Or they've taken standard pulleys. They don't look like standard pulleys. I was going to say, or they've taken standard pulleys and turned them, added those chamfers themselves. But I think they're custom made. Interesting choice. Can we do these? These ones come out. So I think these are the same. These look really worn out. If this is just the wear from my use, that those belts are not going to last long. I've printed a fair bit, but really not like this much worth. The other ones pressed out quite easily because of how they were installed. But this one just doesn't want to go. I guess that one will stay. Probably not supposed to come apart particularly, maybe. I don't know. So then we come on to this Hujima flip. So this is interesting because ever since I think Bamboo did it, I don't think I saw it much before that. People have been trying to use spring tensioners for various axes. You gonna come out? Oh, looks like they intended to have a grub screw to hold it in place, and then didn't because it's so forced in there, it ain't coming out. Oh, they've like glued them in. There's gloop on the bearings. So maybe, I'm not sure why those ones came out, but this one's got gloopy. So that one's definitely not going anywhere. Let's okay, so they've got holes here, but I don't think I can access them screws still. No, there's one more, but this thing I think is in the way now. I'm going to put some safety glasses on for this because I think there's probably going to be a fairly strong spring inside. Or side, I should say. Because remember, everyone, there is high voltage inside, so please do not touch it. Oh, yes, I was right. Big old spring in there. That's a chunky boy, that is. But what does it actually push on? Oh. So that's the metal plate. That's the slider. I'd say that's a reasonably effective location for it. So basically, let me show you, or try and show you how this works. Right, yep, see you in the next stream. So the belt goes in here, around the idler, which is here, around the motor, which is here, and then comes back to the pulley over here, and round and out. So the tensioner, which is approximately here, gets pushed in that direction, shortening that length and that length at the same time, which is what makes it an effective position. And it does that by being able to slide back and forwards like this. But this spring, once mounted about there, will push it this way. And in theory, somewhere between zero travel and maximum travel is where the belt will tension. But if it gets to maximum travel before your belt tensions, then it's not great. Just tested mine 240 volts between fan blades and frame. Oh yeah, the heater, yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal. You could totally touch this by accident. Well, yes, I nearly did. I was poking around and was like, oh, poke. Luckily, didn't try hard enough and survived. Oh, shoot. They needed a high voltage Lun side label for the bit where the high voltage actually is touchable. Right. Seeing as that bit is going to be identical to this bit, I don't think there's any value in disassembling that. Oh, my jaw aches from talking so much. Do you think if someone would make a cover for the chamber heater, it would be safer? Yeah, in theory, yes. It is the touching that makes it a problem, that makes it a big problem. I don't see a reason for it to be 240 volts in the first place, though. Really. If it's only 100 watts, 24 volts would be fine. And that would be much safer. And then you should still have a cover just in case you do touch it. But if you do, the risk of damage is pretty minimal because it's only 24 volts. The fins should be isolated, but from what other people are saying, this is how these heaters are made. So Qidi have not designed it this way. This is how low-cost heaters are made. I mean, arguably, we just don't use low-cost heaters. But if this is how they're produced cost-effectively, then we just need to find really a way to use them safely as they are. Or, as you say, not have 240 volts going through the fins, which just doesn't seem like a very good idea, regardless of how many times it's been done before. Yeah, I'll probably get in touch with them after this video. This is why I felt it was important to do this today, because finding things in line with the review at this time is, I think, important. I could have left it 2 weeks, but this information needs to be available at the time we're doing reviews. Where I will probably leave updates. Sorry, I'm just relaxed because I'm exhausted now. It's really tiring doing, I don't know, just mental overload of disassembly and trying to remember where everything goes. So yes, I'll be getting in contact with Qidi, and any updates I will primarily probably try and post on my review on the blog, because that's the place I can leave an update on a review. The review on YouTube will be what the review on YouTube is. I can't really change that now, apart from pulling it down, which I don't really want to do because like 95% of the review is valid, and it's taken a lot of effort on my part to do. It's disappointing, but again, I'm glad we found this thing. It's important to do this disassembly because this is how you find stuff like this. And I think it needs to be better. I mean, these red fins are pretty accessible, and it doesn't take much to really even access these. Like, this pops right off. This one's kind of caught under the edge of the frame, but yeah, it just... A bigger cover should go on here without too much trouble, because this is the bit that faces out. I believe this goes backwards. These are like, so from your perspective, what perspective is that? Oh, I don't freaking know. This bit is the back of the printer. It's on this side of the printer, so that's at the back. This is the front of the printer, and this is blowing into the main chamber. This face here and the 4 screws that go through it should allow for a better, bigger, deeper duct on the front. That would be minimal first approach, something that also covers around the side to prevent any stray fingers going there. That would be the very minimum that I would want to see. But a low voltage heater, I think, and a better power supply is really the right solution here. Cool. So, are there any other questions? Yes, where's the earth box? There's no earth. Why you no earth? Holy balls. Yeah, I changed my mind then. I think just must be 24 volts or get rid of it. It's not safe. I have not got an SV08. What is an SV08? Is that even less safe? Oh, I'm guessing you're not under NDA for that then, because it's not released, is it? Helical, not that great for extruders. Well, it's not the extra extruder teeth. It's just from the motor to one of the drive gears. So it should improve consistent force without interrupting, without like twisting the filament or anything like that. I've heard of issues with twisting filament with helical, as in like the teeth that actually grab the filament, but this is not where it's actually grabbing the filament. It's just part of the gearing. Sorry, everyone. Don't mean to yawn. I'm just tired apparently, and don't realise until I start streaming that I'm tired. I can't comment on this video. Yeah, there seems to be some. I think I saw your box picture, but with no further information. Unfortunately, I don't have one. I've not worked with Solvol, I think, at all. They don't like me, don't want me, don't nerve me. I don't know, one of those. Does this printer have an aux cooling fan? It has many cooling fans. It has a side cooling fan, which blows across, but it's not really set up. So I think that's what you mean. It has side cooling, yes. Hey, Jose. You are exactly at your normal timing right at the end of the stream. Show a close-up of the Hotend, please. We didn't really do disassembly here. So the Hotend is a bit of a weird mashup of, I think some people have said like a dragon bamboo crossover sort of thing. So it's kind of form factor of a Bamboo Labs Hotend, but the thing here, I think it's like a CHT. No, that's core heating technology. CHC. Oh. Just about managed to mute in time. So yeah, you've got this kind of shiny, doobly Hotend. The nozzle is unfortunately not compatible with Volcano. This is too short. The Volcano nozzle is a little bit longer. A bit annoying, but. And one other thing I didn't end up putting in the review is that there's no profiles available for 0.6 nozzle, even though they have compatibility for various nozzle sizes or whatever they sell. But there's no profiles for it. So for doing fiber-filled filaments, I think you really want a 0.6mm nozzle at least, because a 0.4 will tend to block a little bit too often. It just, yeah, it's a normal screw-in nozzle. Oh, yeah. It's a normal, there's a thing on the review. But it's just an annoying size. That's going to just release a spring. This is the filament sensor. So this is like a second filament sensor that I cannot remove. Oh, there's more screws at the back. There's springs in here, so let's just be a bit careful. So that's one filament sensor. There's basically some little metal rods. They just push together in the middle. When the filament comes down, the rods push apart, and that interrupts, I think, infrared switch or something. It's Hall effect or infrared, one of the two. That's that. And then you've got this kind of LGX style extruder. Oh, why have I started sniffling as well now? Goodness me. Another tray for screws. You can't see, can you, quite how many trays of screws I've got now. It's actually bonkers. Oh, excuse me. Maybe it's best if I try and blow my nose a bit. Right, so hopefully we can pull this apart and not lose the spring. And also have it not shoot into my face. Nope, doesn't want to come apart. I think it's the spring tension holding it together. I can't really see where the, I mean, the spring's in here, but I can't see where the lever is. Ping. So it is completely fixed tension. There's no adjustability. You've just got the spring, which holds it in place. Very basic extruder design. Basic, but maybe effective. Looks like this. I don't know why it's instantly dark there. Oh, we can zoom a bit. So it's just like this one lever on the side. This comes out. Well, it did a second ago. A few dinky little bearings. Some cloned LGX gears. And a lever. With a spring. Bish bash bosh, job's a good one. Don't know how you get this back together. Which way around did it go? Boom hell. Well, that's the top. And that's the bottom. So that goes. Nope. There we go. There. Oh god. Nope. I've messed that up. Let's not worry about that for now. My nose is starting to run and it's going to bug me even more. We don't need to worry about reassembly. Right, now I think we've disassembled everything. HGX extruder. What's HGX extruder? Isn't it LGX? So I'm just sniffling. HGX is the AliExpress version of LGX. High temperature extruder. Interesting. Yeah, we've disassembled basically everything. We're not going to learn anything new from disassembling more now. We've done everything pretty much. So I think we're going to call it a day. And we've just hit 3 and a bit hours, so that works well for me too. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to check out my review of this printer. Obviously, I didn't know at the time about the slightly dodgy mains voltage issue, which I shall be trying to address. Otherwise, check out the TikTok that I did. I've done some shorts on this printer and I've written on the blog, so check there for updates about this heater issue and the mains voltage, etc. Don't forget to leave a like. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.